Okay, welcome everyone to today's event on AP automation and how it cuts costs and increases efficiency. My name is Jason Gumpert. I'm the editor at msdynamicsworld.com, and my guests today and our speakers are Henry Iams, Charlotte Jenkins, and Hannah Horning from AVIDXCHANGE. It's great to have them with us. And as we get going, just a bit of housekeeping. There will be a couple poll questions, and I know our speakers will be inviting your questions today during the session, so they do hope to keep it interactive. You can enter your questions anytime using the Q&A block you should see just to the right of the main presentation area. Poll questions will show up over there too when they go live, and that will be happening in just a few minutes. So without any further delay, I'm going to hand things off to Henry to get us started.
Thank you, and welcome. Thanks for spending some time with Charlotte and myself. We're delighted to share some exciting things that we see happening in the marketplace about why you should be thinking about improving your AP process. My name is Henry Iams. I'm the Vice President of Product Management. And prior to joining Avid several years ago, I spent more than 15 years advising companies of all sizes on how to improve their accounts payable process. So I've been in this industry for, well, almost 17 years. Charlotte, welcome. Tell us about you.
And I'm really an SME on everything related to AVIDXCHANGE AP automation. My current role is a solutions consultant where I facilitate product demos. I participate in discovery sessions with clients and prospects to really understand their needs, and then I work hand in hand with our product team to help design the solutions that best meet their requirements. Prior to my current role, I was on our implementation team for about 4.5 years. So I was responsible for training clients on the application, setting up the integrations for them, and then really being their main contact, supporting them after go live until it's been transitioned to our account management team.
Thank you for being with us, Charlotte. So if you think of this simply, Henry does a little bit on thinking about the product and where we're going to take our solutions to solve accounts payable problems, and Charlotte makes it happen with our customers. So let's talk about our agenda. Charlotte, what are we talking about here? We're going to be talking about invoice automation. We're going to be talking about saving money, efficiency. I'm really excited.
We're going to do an actual demo.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we'll get a demo, and we're going to move quickly so that we can get to your questions and answers. As we've both said, we've been doing this for a long time. And we'd like to help people think about how to embrace this kind of automation and how it brings in value to their business. So we're going to be covering all of these things. So when we think about AP automation, basically there's three core elements that we want you to think about. Improving your process to improve how you control the payables process, and visibility to where invoices are in the process. This is a huge piece of what we do and why we do it. Because in the paper-based world, you can't see where an invoice is if it's sitting on a person's desk, or it's in the mail, or it's being routed around. You have no visibility in this paper environment. So we want to teach you about that. We want to teach you about how it adds value by reducing your cost and, well, allowing you to reallocate the work that you're doing to more strategic processes. AP automation is not, however, a replacement for staff or an outsourced business process. This is really an enhancement to what you do today to allow you to do it, well, more automatically. Which brings us to our first poll question.
Yeah, so what we're going to find out is, why are you guys looking to purchase an AP automation solution? So if you see questions, go ahead and kind of log what your specific reason is. What's driving you? Is it maybe increasing payment processing efficiency? Maybe it's 24 access to that payment status. More robust payment approval process. So go ahead and log exactly what's driving on your end to purchase this solution. And Henry, I believe recently we've done a survey about our customers and why they chose AVIDXCHANGE. Would you be able to shed some light on what our clients have said?
Yeah, this is really cool, and we'll share that result in a minute when we're going to leave the poll open for a bit, but to give you a little preview, what was really neat about our ongoing customer survey, that part of what I do in product management is oversee our customer surveys. We surveyed about 3,000 of our 5,000 users, customers, and we had about 280 responses. So we had a really good look at why they purchased our solution, which we think is really neat. And we want to share that with you, and also want to share how it's changing over time. So in the customer insights area that we're watching and seeing, what are our customers doing? Well, wow, great result here. Increasing efficiency, 70% of you. And you know what? That's really consistent with what we're seeing. Of course, we're seeing many of you saying, yeah, there's other areas. There's payment, efficiency. And let's take a look at how that compared to our AVIDXCHANGE survey. This is the reasons why we asked customers chose AVIDXCHANGE. Increasing payment efficiency. Wow, 87% this year. More flexible invoice approval process. The reason we didn't have any responses in 2016 was because we added that question this year because we knew that we had a lot of write-ins, so we changed the survey question. Payment status, 24 access to payment details. Wow. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about improving the payment approval process and security. These are some of the core themes that we want to share with you in our session today. So before we do that, let's talk about how AP automation reduces your costs. So Charlotte, give us a little start on this. How should we be thinking about this?
Sure. So I would think about, first of all, where are these savings coming from? So what are the things at the end of the day that are taking the most of your time, the most of your energy, and then resulting in like I was going to suggest, additional costs related to that. So just touching on a few, you have the ability to eliminate paper and invoice, the paper invoices and checks, which immediately is going to cut down on costs. Think about any of that manual labor that you're doing, or double labor. So if you're having to do duplicate work related to just kind of a messy process, a disjointed process, that can all be reduced as well. Henry, what do you think?
Well, I love that, and we talk about the soft costs on the hard costs. Charlotte was just giving us some of the harder elements, labor, efficiency, printing checks, things like that. There's also a lot of soft elements that we don't want you to miss today. Improving the visibility, we're going to talk about that. And then the themes that maybe you don't think about, lost checks, fraudulent activity, duplicate payments. These are some of the minor nuances that sometimes can be a major annoyance for our departments. So let's drill in a little bit and talk more about some of these themes. Here's what we know. The average cost to process a single invoice from PayStream Advisors and other surveys, this one's from Arden Partners, it's very consistent. It's very high. It's $13 an invoice, which is, God, it seems unbelievably high that every year, continuously, these surveys come out with very high numbers. And, when I was a consultant managing these surveys across thousands of accounts payable departments and users across the country, the consistent answer was 80% of these costs were built in the manual processing, opening the mail, sorting the mail, chasing around the paper, and of course the data entry elements to get this coded into our accounting system. That's really where these costs are embedded. Here's another one for you. The cost of a check. Cost of a check. Now, wait a minute. A cost of a check. Charlotte, it must be only, 10 cents and plus the stamp? Well, actually,
no.
Yeah, it's a lot more than that, right? And so what's in here when we ask in these surveys, we say, all right, well, thinking about considering all the costs. This is the labor of the person who's printing out the checks. Perhaps running those checks around the organization to get them signed by the CFO, the controller, maybe the CEO, depending on the size of the company. Dual signatures. All these control elements that we have to do, and then, of course, reconciling our bank statements, reissuing lost checks. And it turns out that about 1 in 250 supplier checks is returned or lost, meaning it has to be reissued and a stop payment has to be issued, which, as you know, the banks charge quite a bit for a stop. Not even considering the cost of the fraud that occurs with fraudulently cashed supplier checks. So that's how the costs are so high. In the automation environments, as Charlotte's going to share with us, this can be reduced a lot. Charlotte, how much does it cost in the AVIDXCHANGE world?
Great question. So it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. $1.50 per automated invoice and then 58 cents per payment. So what you can see here right on the screen is about a 60% average reduction.
I like it. So is the cost, is that really the driver? Well, 70+% of you said no, it was efficiency. Cost is kind of the icing, but efficiency is the real reward. Charlotte, tell us some more.
Yeah, so one of the things that we really see is the strategy is to improve client or supplier relationships. So I'm going to let Henry talk about some of those first two, but just touching on our services team, we like to think of ourselves as being half software and then half services. So we have a whole dedicated team right here in Charlotte, North Carolina, that is solely, their sole job and sole purpose is to support that relationship with your suppliers, all the way from managing what their preferred payment method is, how they want to receive those payments, to even making sure those invoices are readily accessed or accessible in the system for you guys.
Yeah, and really there's a subtlety here that we're going to share more on, but essentially you can't just build a system and say, okay, all suppliers, you got to change your behavior. Suppliers, well, most of my clients over the years have had thousands, if not 5 or 10,000. When I was working with one large university, University of Ohio, their big concern was, hey, we want to do some kind of electronic relationship with our suppliers, but when we looked at it, we're only going to be able to get 50 or 60 of them to do electronic processing with us. What about the rest? And they had 8,000. So what you want to think about is how you optimize these relationships for making a more balanced approach with the supplier. That means making it easier. So in the middle here, we developed something we call the supplier portal. We call it Cash Flow Manager at AVIDXCHANGE, which allows the supplier 100% visibility and access to all of their invoices that have been sent in, so that as soon as it comes into our systems, they can log in and see, oh, here's my invoice, and they, instead of calling you, they are trained to use this system. They can find out, has it been approved, is it pending approval, or has it been paid, and even the payment date and a payment number. So it gives them a lot of visibility to find out, hey, which invoices I paid for, all the details that they call AP departments to find out. All righty, well, let's think about the challenges of a finance manager. Hackett Group, another research company, did a survey of finance managers in February of this year and found that 71% of these folks are saying, yeah, we are trying to improve efficiency in our finance function. In other words, you're not alone. This is the core theme of this group, but even more, the secondary group talked about, well, how competitive and how volatile this accounting function in accounts payable has become. The difficulty of hiring new AP staff, the retiring of existing workforces, trying to bring millennials into a very manual process. These are real challenges that finance managers are faced with today, and creating, well, a new way of doing it. So can you talk about how this works? I want to share with you some of the key themes that AVIDXCHANGE does. So what we're really doing here with our combination scanning technology that takes the invoices and makes them digital is we're allowing them to become electronically shared around your organization. My favorite example is the mobile access that we provide for mobile approval and pay release. So the boss or the department manager or the approver, he's got an invoice he needs to do. Maybe it needs to be done because you're put on credit hold. They can do it from home. They can do it from the ball field. They can do it from the beach. The other key elements that our customers are telling they really like is improving their forecasting, because invoices that are captured immediately within hours of being in our system, now it's information that you have to decide what you want to do with it, and not the least of which is, what is my accrual report? So there's no longer an accrual. An accrual report takes 10 seconds. You run a report and you can see every invoice sitting on every manager's inbox. You can find out where they are. And so if a supplier calls up and says, hey, where's my invoice? 2 seconds later, you'll know the answer. That's actionable data. And the last piece here is improving the timing of how you pay. The more automated this process gives you better visibility to upcoming obligations that you have coming next week, next 2 weeks, next 3 weeks, and better control about when you disperse it, as Charlotte's going to share with you a little bit later. So, Charlotte, how does this help us with improving the management of the data that's inside our accounting systems today?
Great question. So one of the main benefits is you now have you gained a central repository for all AP information, anything and everything related to AP. You get to essentially reduce those all of these multiple different systems in place. Now you have really just your accounting system, which is going to save that system of record. And then, lastly, you can really utilize untapped financial and business data to then make informed decisions about your cash flow. So like Henry was saying, better forecasting, better, visibility into where you're at, month end and, forecasting for the next month and budgeting.
All righty. Well, we are answering the first question that we always get. How am I going to convince my boss, CFO, the owner, the controller, we need to do this? If you're one of those people on the phone that's trying to figure out the business case, we've got something for you. Ardent Partners, one of the research companies that follows this industry, developed this State of Payables 2017 report, and this is really highlighting some of the themes that we've been talking about already. Cash, managing how you interact with your suppliers, and using that data to build better intelligence about your accounts payable process. I guess you never really thought of this as so strategic, but there's a lot of information in this invoice pile of yours that can be very powerful if used properly. That's what we want to make sure you can use. We're going to send you a link so you can click on that, download this report, and take you through sort of more of the details of how you're going to build your business case. So excited to share that with you. All righty. So Charlotte, what's the before and what's the after going to look like?
Great. So what you see here is the way that I kind of like to visualize or explain how manual a typical AP process can be end to end. So a lot of steps, essentially a lot of people, and essentially a lot of paper. So not all of these may apply to your unique organization, your unique business and process, but really, again, like just hearing, what I want you to take away is just how many steps and how much time can potentially be involved, all the way from receiving that invoice to the very end of posting that, printing a check, and then filing that away.
That's why the round trip invoice plus the payment is close to $20 each. And so now, after the automation.
Great. Yeah, so what you see here is life after automation, or life after AVIDXCHANGE. So anywhere you see the AVIDXCHANGE logo or the gray circle is where software or a service is going to step in to help automate that process. Where you don't see it, so those blue circles, that's going to be anywhere that today is a process that is unique to your business, where you will still maintain complete 100% control. Doesn't mean you don't have tools to help automate that. Just looking at coding, some smart coding tools, but you're still going to have 100% control to make sure that you're posting that to the, the exact expense or GL that you'd like to.
Excellent. And the posting to the GL we're going to show you in the demo, it works seamlessly with all versions of Dynamics because we integrate to well over 130 different accounting systems, but we have a special focus on the Dynamics ERP platform.
Great. So how invoices get into the AVIDXCHANGE platform? So you see here about 3 primary methods from which ideally vendors can now submit their invoices directly to AVIDXCHANGE. So email any of those vendors that have the ability to submit electronically. They can email that directly to AVIDXCHANGE, where you'll be set up with a unique email address, again, for all of your suppliers. UScan always has the ability to take an invoice and upload it from your desktop and get into the system maybe right away. Maybe it's an emergency invoice. And then paper, so for any of those vendors that don't have the ability to submit electronically, or maybe they just prefer that hard copy, snail mail, you always have the ability, or your vendor suppliers will always have the ability to submit those as paper. We'll then turn them into an electronic format.
Yeah,
Once we
right.
receive those invoices, we're going to extract that header data. And so when I say header data, I mean the vendor, the location, the invoice amount, the invoice number, et cetera. And then we'll submit that to AVIDINVOICE, which will kickstart an approval on that invoice. So based on predefined rules and routing conditions, et cetera, that invoice is going to know exactly where to go, who needs to see it coded, and then essentially sign off on it before you take that invoice back over to Microsoft.
All this is done in a couple of different processing centers, one in Charlotte, North Carolina, and the other in the West Coast, with U.S.-based employees that do all the processing work. Last month, we processed over 600,000 paper invoices and a total well over 1 million. This is a pretty big scale operation, but it's not in India. It's not in Eastern Europe. It's here in the U.S. Donald Trump is very happy. So, Charlotte, I know we want to get to the demo. Can you walk us through how this works so seamlessly with Microsoft Dynamics platforms like AX, GP, SL?
Absolutely. So what I'm going to walk through today is specifically Great Plains. With Great Plains, we've recently built an API on the invoice automation side. So within AVIDXCHANGE, or regardless of the system, you'll come in, you'll be able to code approve those invoices, and then send those back over to your accounting system to post and then go through your select for pay process. So where we're going to start is within AVIDXCHANGE, decoding and approving of those invoices. A couple things to note. It is SaaS-based, so there's nothing to buy, maintain, install. And as long as you can access the internet, you can access Avid. What you see here are all invoices that are pending approval. So once I'm securely logged in, I'm going to see all invoices that require action specific to me. You see you have easy access to all of that invoice data, so the pertinent information right here. And then based on a preference, you can really customize what this view looks like. So if you want to filter down and only see certain columns, you absolutely have the ability to do that. So here, this is permission-based, but a user has the ability to come in here and bulk approve their invoices. So what that allows you to do is over on the left, you see you can check off all of those invoices and then approve in a bulk fashion. Like I said, this is permission-based, and it's typically reserved to somebody that today is just verifying dollar amounts, so maybe a check signer.
So I don't need, you said this is a cloud-based, right? So I don't need a special application installed on my computer to do this?
Absolutely not. You do not.
Okay.
And just touching on that, it's mobile responsive. So regardless of what device you're on, your desktop, your tablet, your cell phone, you can access, or the system will just optimize to that unique device. So there's no app that's needed to download.
No software to download either. Wow.
So if I am responsible for coding this invoice, I just simply select that invoice number to dive into the invoice detail page. We do have 2 default or smart coding tools that can be used to pre-code that invoice. One of them is a default GL. So based on a particular vendor or supplier, you can have a GL code or an accounting code pre-populate 100% of that invoice amount every single time. We also have another one which takes that a step further. It's called Use Previous, and what that does is we'll remember for this unique account number under that supplier, every single distribution line, so you've coded it, you're allocated across 20 different GLs with different descriptions and percentages. It'll remember that every single time.
Wow. And I see we have the image here, so I could take a look and scroll through and actually look at the entire invoice image that's been captured, right?
Absolutely. You can always, heaven forbid you want to have a paper copy, you always can download that from here as well.
That's handy. Okay.
So with permission, a user has the ability to change that GL code, split it, either by a percentage or an amount. What you can see here is just starting to type in that description. We'll go ahead and pull back and filter the results based on what you've typed. So a lot of users I know don't know all of the GLs by heart, by memory, so that you can search by either value or description. And then you'll see that the system is going to validate the amount. So it's going to show you in bright red what is the remaining amount that you need to allocate. And it'll even enforce that you do that. You fully allocate this invoice before you can move it on and then press the approve button to move it on to the next step. Attachment. So any supporting documentation, this is a great place to store this. So you have it in one centralized location. One of the things I love about when you access AVIDXCHANGE from your cell phone is the upload file button will actually prompt you to take a photo. So rather than having to take a document, scan it in, email it to yourself, and if your desktop is anything like mine, try and figure out where you save that, you can just snap a photo straight from your phone and it's right here.
That'd be great. So if you had a packing slip or you wanted there was some more supporting documentation on a professional services invoice, perhaps the contractor gave you a printout or something, you can attach it here.
Absolutely. So workflow, this is really the star of the show. So what you see here is an overview of the approval process for this unique invoice. So highlighted in blue is what step is that, what actions required, exactly who it's with, and then you can see the steps to come. A couple things to note about our workflow engine. We have the ability to set timers or alerts at every single step of the approval process. So essentially allotting a number of days for that individual to take whatever action is required. So let's say you've given your department manager 3 days to come in here, review code and approve the invoice. On day 4, if it's still sitting with Fred, he still hasn't come in here and taken action on this invoice, it's immediately going to start showing up on some escalation reports, which can be sent to specific individuals on your end. We also have the ability to build conditional steps. So maybe based on the dollar amount, if this invoice is greater than $5K, you automatically want your CFO to come in here and review that. Those are some of the conditions in the automatic rules that we can build into the system. And then my favorite feature is the history. So this is an automatic audit trail of everything that's occurred with this invoice from the time of creation all the way throughout the approval process. Anything that's modified or changed with those details along with the user name, date, and timestamp. And the best part is all of this is reportable. One of the things I like is you'll see here it's already expanded, but it's not information overload. So you see at a high level that the invoice distribution was updated, and then have the ability to expand or collapse for more information.
Fantastic. Our auditors love us.
They do. All right, so once this invoice is fully coded, fully approved, the next step is to batch this invoice. And batch is really an AVID-specific word, but it is that process of creating that transaction within your accounting system. So a variety of methods that it is performed based on accounting systems. What we're going to be talking through today is unique to Great Plains. So once that invoice has been added to the batch and closed within AVIDXCHANGE, they're now available to import into Dynamics Great Plains. Oh. I think one more, Henry.
One more, okay.
Again.
Now I guess we're into reports on this one.
Got it. So, if you want to go ahead, I'll just touch on reports.
Okay.
Okay, so here we have invoice search. So invoice search is really a custom module within AVIDXCHANGE that allows the user to come in here, search for invoices, really filter down the criteria of what they'd like to pull back. One thing to note is by default, the user can only search for invoices that they should be allowed to see. So, for the specific companies, departments, locations, etc., that they are approving invoices for. So once I run that report, or once I search within, I can create a custom report. And these are all of the different reports that I can essentially check off. Maybe I just want the images and the history. But once you go ahead and check off all of them, you can see a sample of that information. So you have a summary on the very first page, and then it's going to break it out by each invoice record. So header information, exactly how I've coded it, that entire history, and then there'll be an image of that invoice as well. So what I've seen a lot is this is sometimes information that users are constantly having to reach out to the AP to pull this from their accounting system, which is, sometimes really taking up a lot of time for AP. Now, this empowers users to be able to come in and run this information on their own, so that, again, they're not having to constantly reach out and pull AP away from the things they really should be focusing on.
Terrific. So how do we import into Microsoft?
Yes. So once that invoice was batched and closed, you now log right into Great Plains, and you can import that that batch with one click. So as I said, we do have an API developed with Great Plains, so there's a seamless transfer of that invoice record with all of the coding, all of the unique descriptions, all of that information, any header memos, et cetera, that you've pre-populated in AVIDXCHANGE. It's a seamless transfer of that information over to Great Plains.
Cool. So we just select the batch and manage the import. This is obviously a familiar screen. Yes. And then we were drilling in a little bit here. There was a question that came in about looking at the image and how you look at the image and reference it from within inside Great Plains.
Great question. So as you see here, you can just double-click that batch to preview the invoice details along with that invoice image. So you'll see, it's kind of small on screen, but you can see the View Invoice button, which will then pull up the image straight from AVIDXCHANGE, pull that up in a URL for you.
Cool. So I don't need to be logged into AVIDXCHANGE. I can click right through GP to get the image I need. I don't have to go to the web browser.
Correct.
Right.
You got it. Once that invoice is imported, the user can then click on that invoice to view the actual transaction within Great Plains. So you'll see you'll get validation that batch was successfully imported. Once you click OK, you'll then be able to dive into that transaction detail. So as you see here, all of that unique coding that was pre-populated or filled out in AVIDXCHANGE seamlessly transferred over here. If I had any header memo, anything like that, that would also pre-populate here on that transaction.
Yeah, we're really so feeling very pleased with ourselves with these seamless transfers, because our clients over the years and the hundreds of GP clients have helped us constantly improve how we manage this integration and make it as simple and easy for them to work in GP and to transfer that data easily with just really one click. All righty.
Great.
So what about payment applications? We've talked a lot about invoice. We gave you how you log in, how you look at an invoice, how you approve it, how you code it. Charlotte talked about auto coding and a bunch of different ways to do that. Let's talk about really a big piece of the sizzle when you combine invoice with payment in one solution. Let's take a look at how this works.
Yeah, so AvidPay is really a full service offering, which includes intuitive software to give you and your team control over the payment approvals, and more importantly, full visibility into all of your payments. So as I said earlier, we provide a service component to help reduce those manual tasks that can take up a lot of your accounting staff's time. So the idea is then being that your team can focus on more strategic initiatives to help grow your business. So once you've had that transaction within Great Plains or within your accounting system, you'll still go through your normal select for pay process, check off which transactions you're ready to pay, and then today where you're pushing maybe that's a printer ABC and printing a paper check, you'll now be able to push that over to AVIDXCHANGE, the AvidPay network, where we'll then execute on that payment on your behalf.
Wow. No printing, no mailing, no stuffing, no more putting stamps on envelopes. Nice. So you're showing us here how you actually upload this. So you've exported the file to the desktop, and now you're completing that batch by sending it up to AvidPay, right?
Yes, absolutely. And then from there, we can facilitate 100% of those payments. So what you see here is really kind of a dashboard. So all of those different payment batches with all of the unique payments within there. So like I said earlier, complete visibility into your transactions. After you send up the AvidPay network, you can view batch by batch, payment by payment, the status, the payment method, which is going to constantly be updated in real time.
So I'm looking at another history of was the payment made, the payment history. In this example, you're showing me that we paid Peak 10 $5,400, and it was over 2 payments over this window here.
Correct. Or yep, you got it.
So how does it work with the supplier? Yeah.
Yeah. So another thing we have is it's called pay control, and it's a payment approval process. So let's say you've approved that invoice, and now you send it back to AvidPay for us to execute on. So before you want our team to execute, you want one more level of approval or sign off internally from your organization. So maybe every single payment, maybe based on the dollar amount, you really would like a virtual sign. Maybe it's your CFO, maybe it's your CEO, but that comes in and just checks off, and yes, these are ready to go. I release them to AvidXChange.
So they get an email notification, right? And then they log in?
Absolutely. So here, once you receive that notification, very similar to the invoice side, you can allot a number of days for them to come in here and take action on those. And it's not, an all or nothing. You never have to set it to where it's every single payment. You can come in here and, again, build it on a dollar amount. So here I see all payments that are requiring my approval. I can, approve them in bulk. I can mass select. I can even, you'll see, be able to put one on hold. So if I'm not ready or if I have a question about it, I can select hold and even log a comment as to the reason why.
Got it. Now, we've paid electronically to a supplier, and we're going to notify them via a remittance, and this is sent via email to give them details of the payment that we've made.
Absolutely. So complete, rich remittance information, all of that information they need to apply that payment accurately.
Suppliers love it, and stop calling our customers. That's what we hear a lot.
And then one last thing I love is back in AvidInvoice, with that invoice record, you'll be able to see now payment details on that invoice. So if a user maybe doesn't have access to AvidPay, you've locked that down. Doesn't mean they can't come in here and search and at least view, like I said, real-time status updates of that payment record as it travels along to your supplier.
That's handy. All righty. Well, we're going to take your questions in just a moment, but first we'd like to do another poll question, and then we will come back, and we've been taking questions. If you want to ask a question at this point, you can type it into the control panel, and we will read them and get right to it.
And that second poll is up now. You should be seeing that to the right of your screen, right around the same area where you would enter your questions. And Henry and Charlotte, several questions have come in already, so should we start in on them?
We should, indeed.
All right. So the first question that came in several minutes ago was, do the vendors have to enter the invoice into AvidXChange manually, or does it read the invoice and interpret the data automatically?
Oh, that's
Great
one of the best features, yeah.
Yeah, so that's where absolutely not. Short answer, no. So vendors can send them, either mail them to AvidXChange or send them as an email. And then we have a dedicated services team that is solely doing all of that heavy lifting for your vendor, for your organization. So taking that invoice, entering, extracting all of that header data, making sure that if it is a paper invoice, it gets into an electronic format. So absolutely not. Your vendor has a very easy job. All they have to do is mail or email the invoice to us.
Great. Next question, how long is history kept available? Is pricing based on storage requirements?
Another great question. So history is available forever. So we will never, purge any of your information from the system. You always have access to it. After 7 years, we do archive it. But it's as simple as reaching out to our team if you'd like to pull any records, past 7 or over 7 years. So you always get unlimited access, and like I said, unlimited. You're not charged by storage.
Okay, a couple of questions here related to Dynamics AX. Just asking, does it work with AX, and is there an API developed for working with AX?
Another great question. So as it stands today, we only have an API on the invoice integration for Great Plains. We do have an integration though with AX and with NAV, etc. But it is a file-based integration.
That means you download files from your system and upload it. It takes a couple of minutes to export and then import into the Avid system.
Can you preview the actual PO from within AVIDXCHANGE?
Great question. That's a hard one to answer just based on the question. First question would be, where is that PO being created? So we do have a PO application or product within AVIDXCHANge where essentially users would create a requisition, route that for approval, and then the invoice will match to that PO when the invoice is submitted. If we're looking more so that the PO is being created within Great Plains or within your accounting system, but then viewable within AVIDXCHANge, we do have a solution for that as well. And it is essentially you take that PO information from your accounting system and you upload it to AVIDXCHANge.
Is invoice data extracted through OCR, and is it header level or is line level also included?
I'm going to hand this one over to Henry.
Yeah, one of my favorites. So we presently do use some technology, but we are using 100% human capture of the information today because we hadn't found the extraction tool that we found that OCR was working best for us and providing the accuracy that our clients rely on. So humans do all of the data entry, and today we are providing a header level capture. We're working on an advanced capture solution, which will be released in 2018, which will allow for line item capture, but it's presently not available today. The lines need to be coded. We code the header, you code the lines if you want, or you can upload the lines from the purchase order and they can appear in and be essentially what we call flipped into the invoice detail.
How much time does the system take to complete a batch of 1,000 invoices?
That is such a great question, and I love getting that question. I can tell you if we're talking about just GP with the API, it's not going to take you much time at all. It's usually, a minute or less. And then if we're talking about a file, again, even then, I've seen it's a minute or less. I've worked with on the implementation team, worked with clients that are doing thousands of invoices in a single batch. Some are doing up to 11,000 invoices in a batch, and it's done within a minute or two, sometimes even within a couple seconds.
Yeah, and I can take it in another direction about cap time in our processing center. We have a 24-hour service level offering, which says that 24 hours after an invoice has been received in our capture center, it's entered and available. The reality is it's usually much faster than that. Usually within hours, that once the invoice is received in our capture center, it's available for approval and processing.
All right, I want to make a final call for questions here, and also remind people that we do have a very brief survey that will come up after the session ends, just to get a couple points of feedback from you that just take 10 or 20 seconds. We always appreciate that feedback from you. I know our presenters always do as well. And I see there are a couple more questions coming in, so let's keep going with those. So how is the system backed up against loss of information?
Well,
great question. Yeah, go ahead, Henry.
Great question. Yeah. Well, first of all, we're supporting many, many thousands of users, and we've had that question, well, almost as many times. Because we are 100% cloud-based software as a service application, our solution is redundant in many ways. We have multiple data storage places. We have different service providers that can manage the application for us so that we can offer to our clients a 99.9% uptime in the solution. So data is backed up in multiple locations, and the system delivery through the servers is through multiple Amazon and Microsoft Cloud Azure.
My vendors who are sending me invoices, for those vendors, can they also log into the system and see the invoice status?
If you want them to, through the supplier portal, they have access to see 3 invoice statuses: received, pending approval, and paid. Those are the only 3 statuses we share. Invoice received, invoices pending approval, invoice has been paid. And if it's been paid, it'll show the payment date and payment details.
Okay, well, that appears to be our last question, so I think we can begin wrapping up. Henry, Charlotte, thank you so much for taking the time to present today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us.
Pleasure. We love it. And I just want to wrap up what you've seen today. We want you to think about becoming more strategic in your business. We've shared with you how really you can go 100% electronic instantly because you would no longer need to process any invoices. They come in via email, via mail. We process and guarantee 100% data capture with 99% accuracy with our humans, our folks, our staff, US-based staff that are doing all the data entry, our enhanced workflow and approvals to automate that process, passing it seamlessly into your Dynamics platform, no matter which one you have, some with APIs, some with file-based transfers, requiring no data entry. And the sizzle here is just a little bit icing, I guess. 100% of your payments made electronically, so you never have to cut another check. AVIDXCHANGE makes that all happen for you. My name is Henry Imes. You've been listening to our session. I've been joined by Charlotte Jenkins. I'm the Vice President of Product Management, and we look forward to learning more about you and your needs in a future conversation. Thanks for joining us today.
And that concludes today's event. Have a great day, everybody.